Most people will spend their entire lives begging for respect from people who don't deserve their presence. They've sacrificed their dignity for a paycheck, their peace for approval, and their potential for false security. But here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to admit. The reason you're not getting respect is not because others won't give it, it's because you've never demanded it. You've been so busy trying to earn what should be freely given that you've forgotten the most powerful word in any language is no. There was a man who built an empire worth billions. Airlines, record labels, space exploration. His fingerprints were on industries that shaped how we live today. One afternoon, sitting across from executives who wanted to buy into his vision, he listened to their proposal. The numbers were staggering. More money than most people see in 10 lifetimes. But there was a catch. They wanted him to change his company's values. They wanted him to cut corners on customer service. They wanted him to treat his employees like numbers instead of human beings. They wanted him to compromise everything he stood for. You know what he did? He stood up, shook their hands, and walked out of that room. Walked away from billions. His advisors thought he had lost his mind. His shareholders questioned his sanity. But that man understood something that most people spend their entire lives trying to learn. Sometimes walking away is the most powerful thing you can do. See, walking away is not about giving up. Walking away is about having enough respect for yourself to refuse to accept less than what you deserve. It's about understanding that your peace of mind is worth more than their money. Your dignity is worth more than their approval. Your values are worth more than their temporary comfort. But here's what I've learned after decades of studying human behavior. Most people would rather stay in hell than step into the unknown. They would rather complain about their circumstances than change them. They would rather be victims than victors. And you want to know why? Because walking away requires something that most people have never developed: self-respect. Self-respect is not arrogance. Self-respect is not thinking you're better than everyone else. Self-respect is knowing your worth and refusing to accept anything less. It's looking in the mirror and saying, I deserve better than this. It's having the courage to bet on yourself when everyone else is betting against you. The problem is that society has programmed us to believe that staying is always noble and leaving is always wrong. We're taught that quitters never win. We're told that if we just endure a little longer, things will get better. We're conditioned to believe that suffering in silence somehow virtuous. But let me tell you something, there's a difference between perseverance and stupidity. There's a difference between being committed and being trapped. Perseverance is when you keep fighting for something that's worth fighting for. Stupidity is when you keep fighting for something that's destroying you. Commitment is when you invest in relationships and situations that invest back in you. Being trapped is when you stay in places that drain your life force because you're afraid of what people might think if you leave. I've watched brilliant people waste decades of their lives in jobs that insulted their intelligence because they were afraid to walk away. I've seen talented individuals stay in relationships that crushed their spirit because they thought leaving meant they were failure. I've witnessed entrepreneurs pour their life savings into businesses that were clearly doomed because they couldn't admit they had made a mistake. And you know what happens to these people? They don't just lose time, they lose themselves. They wake up one morning and don't recognize the person staring back at them in the mirror. They've compromised so much of who they are that they've forgotten who they were meant to be. Listen to me carefully. Your time on this earth is limited. You don't get a second chance to live this life. Every day you spend in a situation that doesn't respect your worth is a day stolen from your destiny. Every moment you invest in people who don't value your presence is a moment you could have spent with people who celebrate your existence. But walking away is not just about leaving bad situations. It's about strategic withdrawal. It's about understanding that sometimes you have to step back to move forward. Sometimes you have to close one door so another one can open. Sometimes you have to disappoint some people to avoid disappointing yourself. The businessman I told you about earlier, after he walked away from that billion-dollar deal, something incredible happened. Within 6 months, 3 other companies approached him with better offers that allowed him to maintain his values while growing his business. You see, when you respect yourself enough to walk away from what's wrong, you create space for what's right to enter your life. But here's what most people don't understand. Walking away is a skill that must be developed. It's a muscle that must be strengthened. It starts with small decisions. It starts with saying no to things that don't align with your values. It starts with refusing to laugh at jokes that make you uncomfortable. It starts with not answering your phone when you need time to recharge. These small acts of self-respect build the foundation for bigger decisions. They teach you that you can survive without everyone's approval. They show you that the world doesn't end when you choose yourself over others' expectations. They prove that your happiness is not dependent on making everyone else comfortable. And here's something that will shock you. When you start respecting yourself, other people start respecting you too. When you stop accepting crumbs, people start offering you the whole meal. When you stop being available to everyone, you become valuable to the right ones. When you stop chasing people who don't want to be caught, you attract people who can't wait to find you. But you have to make the first move. You have to be the one who says, enough is enough. You have to be the one who draws the line in the sand. You have to be the one who respects yourself enough to walk away from anything that doesn't respect you back. The truth is, most people are not afraid of failure. They're afraid of success. They're afraid of what it might cost them to become who they're meant to be. They're afraid of outgrowing the people around them. They're afraid of standing alone. But let me tell you something about standing alone. When you stand in your truth, you're never really alone. You attract people who share your values. You magnetize opportunities that match your standards. You create a life that reflects your worth. So I ask you today, what are you staying in that you should be walking away from? What job is insulting your intelligence? What relationship is draining your energy? What friendship is poisoning your peace? What habit is sabotaging your success? What fear is holding you hostage? Whatever it is, I want you to understand that you have the power to change it. You have the authority to make a different choice. You have the right to respect yourself enough to walk away. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are perfect. Today, right now, in this moment, because every second you wait is a second of your life that you'll never get back. Every day you delay is a day of your destiny that you're postponing. Every moment you hesitate is a moment you're choosing fear over faith, comfort over courage, and mediocrity over magnificence. The moment you decide to respect yourself is the moment your life begins to change. But before you can walk away from what's destroying you, you must first recognize what you're truly worth. And that recognition starts with understanding a fundamental truth. The way people treat you is a direct reflection of how you treat yourself. I want to tell you about a man who understood this principle better than anyone I've ever met. He worked as a janitor in a large corporate building. Every day he cleaned the offices of executives who made more money in a week than he made in a year. But this man carried himself differently. He spoke to everyone with respect, and more importantly, he demanded respect in return. One morning, the CEO of the company made a comment that was meant to be a joke, but it was really an insult. Instead of laughing it off like everyone expected, this janitor stopped what he was doing, looked the CEO directly in the eyes, and said, "Sir, I may clean your office, but I don't clean up disrespect. I take pride in my work, and I expect the same respect I give to everyone else." The room went silent. People expected him to be fired on the spot, but something unexpected happened. The CEO apologized. He realized that this janitor had something that many of his highly paid executives lacked: self-respect. That respect was so evident, so unshakable, that it commanded acknowledgement from everyone around him. That janitor went on to start his own cleaning company. Today, he employs over 200 people, and his business is worth millions. But his success didn't start when he left his job. It started the moment he refused to accept disrespect. It started when he recognized his worth and demanded that others recognize it too. You see, the world is like a mirror. It reflects back to you exactly what you project. If you walk with your head down, people will look down on you. If you speak with uncertainty, people will doubt your abilities. If you accept poor treatment, people will treat you poorly. But if you carry yourself with dignity, if you speak with confidence, if you demand respect, the world has no choice but to respond accordingly. The problem is that most people have been conditioned to believe that humility means accepting less than they deserve. They think that being modest means being invisible. They believe that asking for respect is somehow selfish or arrogant. But let me tell you the difference between humility and self-deprecation. Humility is knowing your place in the world without diminishing your worth. Self-deprecation is diminishing your worth to make others comfortable. True humility says, I am valuable and so are you. False humility says, you are valuable and I am not. True humility recognizes that you have gifts and talents that deserve to be honored. False humility pretends that you have nothing to offer. True humility demands respect while giving respect. False humility accepts disrespect while giving respect. When you don't respect yourself, you send a message to the world that you're available for mistreatment. You broadcast that your boundaries are negotiable, your standards are flexible, and your worth is up for debate. And the world will take advantage of that message every single time. I've seen people stay in jobs where they're overworked and underpaid because they're grateful just to be employed. I've watched individuals remain in friendships where they're always giving but never receiving because they're afraid of being alone. I've witnessed talented people shrink themselves to fit into spaces that were too small for their potential because they didn't believe they deserved better. But here's what I want you to understand. When you don't respect yourself, you're not just hurting yourself, you're hurting everyone who loves you. You're teaching your children that it's okay to accept less than they deserve. You're showing your friends that standards are optional. You're demonstrating to your colleagues that excellence is not required. People-pleasing is not kindness, it's cowardice. When you say yes to everything, your yes means nothing. When you're available to everyone, you're valuable to no one. When you never disappoint anyone, you're disappointing yourself constantly. The woman who works 60 hours a week but gets paid for 40 thinks she's being dedicated, but she's actually teaching her employer that her time has no value. The man who loans money to friends who never pay him back thinks he's being generous, but he's actually enabling their irresponsibility. The parent who never says no to their children thinks they're being loving, but they're actually raising entitled human beings. Respect is not something you can demand with your mouth. It's something you must command with your actions. It's not something you can beg for. It's something you must earn by how you treat yourself. It's not something that others give you. It's something that radiates from within you. And here's the most important thing you need to know about self-respect. It's not dependent on your circumstances. The janitor I told you about didn't have wealth or status or power, but he had something more valuable. He had dignity. He knew that his worth was not determined by his job title or his bank account. He understood that respect is an inside job. Your worth is not determined by how much money you make. Your value is not measured by how many people like you. Your significance is not calculated by your achievements or your failures. You are worthy of respect simply because you exist. You have value simply because you're human. You deserve to be treated well simply because you're alive. But knowing your worth intellectually and living your worth practically are two different things. Living your worth means making decisions that honor your value. It means surrounding yourself with people who celebrate your existence, not just tolerate your presence. It means engaging in work that utilizes your talents, not just pays your bills. It means creating relationships that energize your spirit, not drain your soul. When you start living your worth, something magical happens. You stop attracting people who want to use you and start attracting people who want to appreciate you. You stop getting opportunities that exploit your talents and start getting opportunities that develop your potential. You stop settling for relationships that make you feel small and start building relationships that help you grow. But this transformation doesn't happen overnight. It happens one decision at a time, one boundary at a time, one no at a time, one yes to yourself at a time. Every time you choose your peace over someone else's chaos, you're building self-respect. Every time you prioritize your well-being over someone else's convenience, you're strengthening your worth. Every time you walk away from what doesn't serve you, you're walking toward what does. The mirror principle is always working. Right now, the way people are treating you is showing you how you're treating yourself. If people are taking advantage of your kindness, you're probably not setting boundaries. If people are disrespecting your time, you're probably not valuing your time. If people are questioning your abilities, you're probably doubting yourself. But the beautiful thing about mirrors is that when you change what you're projecting, the reflection changes too. When you start respecting yourself, others start respecting you. When you start valuing your time, others start honoring your time. When you start believing in your abilities, others start believing in you too. So look at your life right now. Look at how people are treating you. That treatment is information. It's data about how you're showing up in the world. It's feedback about the energy you're putting out. And if you don't like what you see reflected back to you, you have the power to change it. You can start today by making one decision that honors your worth. You can begin right now by setting one boundary that protects your peace. You can change your reflection by changing your projection. The world is waiting to respect you, but first, you must respect yourself. Now that you understand your worth, let me show you what it costs when you ignore it. Every day you remain in a situation that doesn't honor your value. You're not just losing time, you're losing pieces of yourself, and the price of that loss is far greater than most people realize. There was a brilliant architect who could design buildings that took your breath away. Her creativity was extraordinary, her technical skills were flawless, and her vision was ahead of its time. But she worked for a firm where her boss took credit for her ideas, where her colleagues undermined her presentations, and where her salary was half of what men with less experience were earning. Every morning, she would sit in her car before walking into that building, giving herself a pep talk. "It's just temporary," she would say. "I need the experience. I need the security. I need the reference." For 7 years, she told herself these lies. 7 years of watching lesser talents get promoted while she remained invisible. 7 years of creating masterpieces that bore someone else's signature. But here's what she didn't realize during those 7 years. She wasn't just losing money or recognition. She was losing something far more valuable. She was losing her creative spark. She was losing her confidence. She was losing her belief in her own abilities. By the time she finally left that firm, she had convinced herself that maybe she wasn't as talented as she thought. Maybe she didn't deserve better. Maybe this was as good as it gets. It took her 3 more years to rebuild what those 7 years had destroyed, her self-belief. 3 years to remember who she was before that toxic environment told her who she wasn't. 3 years to rediscover the passion that had been systematically drained from her soul. That's the real cost of staying where you don't belong. It's not just the immediate sacrifice, it's the long-term damage to your spirit. It's not just what you lose in the present, it's what you prevent from entering your future. When you stay in situations that diminish you, you're not being practical, you're being destructive. You're not being patient, you're being passive. You're not waiting for the right opportunity, you're wasting the opportunities that are already in front of you. Every day you spend in the wrong place is a day you can't spend in the right place. Every moment you invest in relationships that drain you is a moment you can't invest in relationships that sustain you. Every ounce of energy you pour into work that doesn't fulfill you is energy you can't channel into work that could change the world. But the cost goes beyond just you. When you settle for less than you deserve, you're teaching everyone around you that settling is acceptable. Your children learn that it's normal to be unhappy with your work. Your friends learn that complaining is more common than changing. Your spouse learns that dreams are things you abandon, not things you pursue. You become a living example of what happens when you don't respect yourself enough to walk away. You become a cautionary tale instead of an inspirational story. You become proof that circumstances are stronger than character, that fear is more powerful than faith, that survival is more important than significance. And here's something that will shock you. The longer you stay in the wrong place, the harder it becomes to leave. Not because the situation gets better, but because you get weaker. Not because opportunities disappear, but because your ability to recognize opportunities diminishes. Not because walking away becomes impossible, but because walking away begins to feel impossible. Comfort zones are like quicksand. They don't hurt you immediately. They feel safe at first. They seem like a good place to rest. But the longer you stay, the deeper you sink. The longer you remain, the harder it becomes to move. What starts as temporary comfort becomes permanent confinement. The woman in the corporate job tells herself she'll leave after she saves enough money, but somehow there's never enough money. The man in the toxic relationship tells himself he'll go after the kids graduate, but there's always another reason to wait. The entrepreneur tells herself she'll pivot when the market improves, but the market is never perfect. These are not reasons, they're excuses. They're not logical explanations. They're emotional justifications for staying comfortable with being uncomfortable. They're ways of avoiding the truth that the only thing standing between you and your freedom is your fear. But let me tell you what fear really cost you. Fear cost you possibilities you never know existed. Fear cost you relationships you'll never experience. Fear cost you achievements you'll never celebrate. Fear cost you the person you were meant to become. The architect I told you about, after she finally found the courage to leave and rebuild, she discovered something that changed her perspective forever. During those 7 years she spent in the wrong place, 3 different firms had tried to recruit her, 3 opportunities for positions that would have doubled her salary and given her the creative freedom she craved. But she never knew about them because she was so focused on surviving her current situation that she couldn't see the alternatives. That's what happens when you're in survival mode. You develop tunnel vision. You become so consumed with enduring your circumstances that you can't envision changing them. You become so skilled at tolerating pain that you forget pleasure is possible. You become so comfortable with less that you can't imagine more. But here's the truth that nobody wants to tell you. There is always another option. There is always a different path. There is always a way out. The question is not whether alternatives exist. The question is whether you have the courage to pursue them. Every situation that's draining your life force is also teaching you what you don't want. Every relationship that's diminishing your spirit is also showing you what you won't accept. Every job that's insulting your intelligence is also clarifying what you deserve. The pain you're experiencing is not punishment, it's preparation. It's not meant to destroy you. It's meant to develop you. It's not supposed to keep you stuck. It's supposed to motivate you to move. But you have to be willing to feel temporary discomfort to avoid permanent damage. You have to be willing to risk short-term uncertainty to gain long-term stability. You have to be willing to disappoint some people today to avoid disappointing yourself forever. The cost of staying is always higher than the cost of leaving. Staying cost you your dream. Staying cost you your potential. Staying cost you your peace. Staying cost you your future. But leaving? Leaving cost you only your chains. Leaving cost you only your limitations. Leaving cost you only your excuses. And those are costs you can afford to pay. The architect, she now owns her own firm. She employs 12 people who share her vision and respect her leadership. She designs buildings that win international awards. She makes more money in a month than she used to make in a year. But most importantly, she wakes up every morning excited about her work instead of dreading it. None of that would have been possible if she had stayed. None of that growth could have happened in that toxic environment. None of that success was available in that limiting situation. Your breakthrough is not behind you, it's in front of you. But you'll never reach it if you don't have the courage to walk away from what's holding you back. You'll never discover what's possible if you keep accepting what's available. You'll never become who you're meant to be if you keep settling for who you currently are. The cost of staying is too high. The price of settling is too steep. The expense of accepting less is too great. You can't afford to remain where you don't belong. You can't afford to stay where you're not respected. You can't afford to accept what doesn't serve you. But you can afford to bet on yourself. You can afford to trust your abilities. You can afford to believe in your work. Because when you finally have the courage to walk away from what's wrong, you create space for what's right to enter your life. There comes a moment in every person's life when the pain of staying becomes greater than the fear of leaving. That moment is not an accident, it's an appointment. An appointment with your destiny, an appointment with your courage, an appointment with the person you were meant to become. But courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is feeling the fear and moving anyway. Courage is not knowing how things will work out. Courage is trusting that they will. Courage is not having all the answers. Courage is believing that the answers will come as you walk, The difference between people who transform their lives and people who just dream about transforming their lives is simple. One group waits for courage to come, the other group acts while courage is building. One group waits for perfect conditions, the other group creates conditions through their actions. You see, walking away is not about running from something, it's about running towards something better. It's not about escaping your problems, it's about positioning yourself to solve them differently. It's not about giving up on life, it's about giving yourself a chance at a better life. But here's what most people don't understand about walking away. It requires preparation. You can't just storm out in anger and expect success to follow. You can't just quit without a plan and expect prosperity to find you. You can't just leave without strategy and expect stability to embrace you. Real courage plans its exit. Real strength builds its bridge before burning the old one. Real wisdom prepares for the transition before making the transition. This means building your skills while you're still employed. This means saving your money while you're still earning. This means developing your network while you still have stability. This means strengthening your spirit while you still have time. Most people stay trapped because they believe they need permission to leave. They think they need their boss's approval to quit. They think they need their family's understanding to change. They think they need society's validation to choose differently. But the only permission you need is the permission you give yourself. The only approval that matters is your own approval. The only validation that counts is your internal validation. When you finally make the decision to walk away, you'll discover something remarkable. The same energy you were using to endure your circumstances becomes available to change your circumstances. The same strength you were using to survive becomes the strength you need to thrive. Walking away with dignity means leaving without burning bridges. It means departing without destroying relationships. It means exiting without creating enemies, because you never know when those bridges might be useful for your future. But walking away also means walking towards something specific. It means having a vision for what comes next. It means being clear about what you want to create in the space you're about to occupy. The moment you respect yourself enough to walk away from what's diminishing you, you announce to the universe that you're ready for what's meant to magnify you. You declare that you're available for opportunities that match your worth. You signal that you're prepared for relationships that honor your value. That moment of decision changes everything, not just your circumstances, but your identity. Not just your situation, but your story. Not just your present, but your future. When you finally walk away from what doesn't serve you, something miraculous happens. You don't just change your location, you change your vibration. You don't just alter your circumstances, you transform your energy. You don't just move your body, you elevate your spirit. The moment you choose yourself over their convenience, you send a signal to the universe that you're no longer available for mediocrity. That signal travels faster than you can imagine, and it attracts opportunities that were waiting for someone exactly like you. Someone with enough self-respect to demand respect. People who respect themselves attract respect like magnets attract metal. They don't have to beg for good treatment. They command it through their presence. They don't have to ask for opportunities. Opportunities seek them out. They don't have to prove their worth. Their worth is evident in how they carry themselves. But here's what happens after you walk away that nobody tells you about. You discover strength you didn't know you had. You find talents you forgot you possessed. You remember dreams you thought had died. The energy you were spending trying to fix broken situations becomes available to build beautiful new realities. Your boundaries become your magnetic force. When people know you won't accept disrespect, they offer respect. When they understand you won't tolerate mediocrity, they bring excellence. When they realize you won't settle for less, they present their best. The space you create by walking away doesn't stay empty. It fills with better opportunities, better relationships, better experiences, better versions of yourself. Nature abhors a vacuum, and when you remove what's toxic from your life, what's healthy rushes in to take its place. But rebuilding requires patience with yourself. You're not just changing external circumstances, you're rewiring internal patterns. You're not just finding new situations, you're becoming a new person. You're not just leaving old places, you're discovering new possibilities. Every morning becomes a fresh start. Every decision becomes an opportunity to honor your worth. Every interaction becomes a chance to practice self-respect. Every choice becomes evidence that you've changed. Your transformation becomes contagious. Your children see that it's possible to choose happiness over security. Your friends witness that change is achievable at any age. Your colleagues observe that respect can be demanded and received. You become living proof that walking away leads to walking into something better. The legacy you leave is not just what you built, it's what you refuse to accept. Not just what you created, but what you wouldn't tolerate. Not just where you went, but what you had the courage to leave behind. You teach the world that some people cannot be bought, cannot be broken, cannot be convinced to settle. You demonstrate that self-respect is not negotiable, that dignity is not optional, that worth is not debatable. When you respect yourself enough to walk away, you don't just change your story, you inspire others to change theirs too.